The year is 1994. Capcom introduced Darkstalkers, Sony and Namco introduced Tekken, and Midway was still riding the Mortal Kombat train. But one company decided to step into the fighting game ring with one of their own. Okay, you read the title, it's Atari. Primal Rage is a prehistoric themed fighting game by Atari with rotoscoped graphics a la Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct. The game is a 4-button fighter in a similar vein to an SNK game, but of course plays like Mortal Kombat because it's popular. Design-wise, it's like they saw Riptor from Killer Instinct and Alex from Tekken and said, "Oh, that's what we need, dinosaurs." To the nerds in the comments section, yes, I know these games came out after Primal Rage, you don't have to remind me. It also got ported to every console at the time, including the Game Gear and Game Boy, as well as a Genesis port that we will talk about later. During fights, you are spectated by worshippers, which are humans wearing green or purple clothes. If they have any other colors, I must have forgotten. And special moves in this game are
HOLY FISH PASTE!
Oh no! Oh no! Oh! Yep! Motion inputs are done in the opposite order. Instead of moving the control stick and then hitting a button, you have to hold the buttons and then move the control stick. What? I'm probably making more of a fuss of this than I should, but when I had the opportunity to play this on an arcade machine a while back, I thought you had to hold the buttons and then release them after you do the motions. Kinda similar to how Justin Wong figured out Street Fighter 1. I don't know if I'd kept them held even after I finished the input, or I let go of the buttons too early, but they weren't very clear when saying how to do special moves. And because the mid-90s were all Mortal Kombat, the game also has fatalities which are done by inputting a special move in the same way as I described before. There's also a certain fatality that caused a lot of mass uproar, but I will get to it later. Primal Rage has 7 characters. The Virtuous Beasts, our main protags, and the Destructive Beasts. You get the point. Let's start with Blizzard. Blizzard is a Yeti who looks like if Blanca had a baby with Thunder Kong from Monster Legends. He is our main protagonist, and looking at the description of his move types from fandom, as well as a few tier lists, he's a good character. He has a Yoga Flamethrower type move which freezes the opponent, a bunch of long-range Mega Punches, and a Fake Punch that not only mix up your opponent, but it's also an anti-fireball. He also has a move that's pretty much Stun Gun Headbutt from Street Fighter 3. Next up we have Armadon. This is the only character I have played, and he looks like the uncle of Trizor and Trazar from Bakugan, and I guess Saurus for the Gen 1 fans. He is unfortunately low tier according to some tier lists, but if I remember correctly, he does have a double D drop I managed to do jump-ins with, and a crap ton of anti-airs. But again, he's not really good. Actually, his Metal Nail special is an anti-fireball move where the longer you hold it, the longer it lasts. Next is Talon, who looks like I have no idea. Talon has a command dash which might not seem useful on paper until you realize that another one of his moves uses the same buttons as the command dash alongside an extra button alongside having similar motions. The move is called Slasher, and basically it's an anti-air that invalidates projectiles. I never fought Talon in my arcade run, nor have I played him, so I can't confirm the frame data and damage. All I know is that he's top tier according to his tier list by I Love Gothwoman on Twitter. This is the only time you're gonna hear me say that. Next we have Sauron, who looks just like your average Joe dinosaur instead of whatever the devs at Atari were cooking. Based on his render, I thought this guy was just Riptor without the cuffs. Turns out his design was more colorful than Riptor's. Sauron's moves I can't really comment on much, but I'll try anyways. He has an anti-air that's apparently minus on whiff, he has an air throw, and I'm not sure if I'm reading the description of this move right, but does this mean he has juggles? I mean, he has to be high tier for a reason. And those are our protagonists, but moving on to our bad guys, we have Chaos. This segment is going to be quick because Chaos has another section in this video. Chaos is just a reskin of Blizzard and is apparently the worst character in the game. He feels like a joke character almost. Most of his moves sound like they're based on potty humor, and Atari found it so funny that they took it to another level. We will get to that later. Next we have Vertigo, and okay, how many fictional reptiles inspired the design for Nilius in Bakugan 3.0? Vertigo is a hypnotist and is commonly thought to be one of the best characters in the game going off the tier lists I use for Talon and Chaos. Looking at her move pool, she's apparently a zoner with... Wait, what do you mean stuns the opponent? Oh, I see. She does have an instant stun, which sounds good on paper, but like Alex's stun gun headbutt from Street Fighter 3, it has its issues. Firstly, it's short range and it doesn't work as an anti-air, and second, it's a special move, so of course there isn't any invincibility frames as far as I'm concerned. Her other moves are great too. She has a get out of jail free card that she can also use in the air too. And finally, our main antagonist, Diablo. Why is he a reskin for Sauron? Diablo is also a zoner, but looking at his move kit, it's slightly worse compared to Urga. Okay, I'll shut up. Apparently this guy has one of the most cheater moves in a fighting game. A get out of jail free card that can automatically stun. While it sounds incredibly broken on paper, there are a few problems I have with it. 1, the fire will probably go away as soon as you teleport, and 2, how big even is the hitbox of the flames? Oh, and we're not done yet, because there are 2 unused characters that were meant for an unreleased sequel, and they are Slashfang and Necroson. Slashfang looks like Tony the Tiger if he took steroids, and Necroson's design is definitely the best one out of everyone here. I know he's unused, but he would have been my main if he was playable. None of these have move lists, so they're basically lost to time. I only played this once on the arcade version, so I basically have no knowledge of what any of these characters do except for Armadon. If I get anything wrong with these characters, let me know in the comments. Now let's go over the part I've been prolonging about. Let's talk about the incident that happened during a session of one of the game's ports on the Sega Genesis. Remember Chaos from a few minutes ago? He has a fatality called, this might get me age restricted, Golden Shower. The name alone already tells you what it's about. Atari wanted to add so many toilet jokes to him that they ended up having one too many. Imagine you're a kid in the 90s. You own a Sega Genesis and your mother buys you this game. The game is rated T for blood and gore, nothing else. You pick Chaos and you play through the arcade mode. Then you start to see your character take a pee on your opponent. This is what happened to the 11-year-old son of Ellie Rovella, the concerned parent who returned the game and wanted the game's ESRB rating bumped up to M4 mature. Probably still wouldn't help given the fact that 11-year-olds nowadays play Grand Theft Auto 5 or watch stuff like Sprunky Horror. Before then, Primal Rage was also in hot water for the same reason as Mortal Kombat back in the day, being too gory for young audiences. But Atari fixed that issue by making the blood and gore optional in the arcade cabinets. I think the cab I played on had it disabled because I have not seen the quote-unquote Champa human move used a single time. And that move is universal, by the way. The aftermath of the controversy via Chaos resulted in the game's getting pulled off the shelves for a bit, even the censored Super Nintendo version, which I kind of find funny. However, while all ports of the game return in the future, the Genesis version did not, even though Chaos still uses your opponent as a toilet in the other versions of the game, except the SNES version. In the end, Primal Rage ended up being a huge success for Atari. Even the Game Boy and Game Gear versions were well acclaimed despite possibly acting as downgrades compared to the home console arcade versions. The game was also claimed to be one of the best games for the Atari Jaguar. And just to be clear, the Jaguar was one of Atari's worst-selling consoles, if not their worst-selling console. The game was also so popular to the point where it spawned merchandise. These included action figures of the playable characters, and also a comic book mini-series on the game. And to sum up my opinion on the game, most of the designs are generic, Chaos almost killed the game's reputation, Armadon and Necroson are based, and the motion inputs confuse me. Now given that this was all forged from 3 sources in one play session, it's evident that I may get some stuff wrong. If you want to correct me on anything I say in this video, feel free to let me know what I got wrong for the people who wish to research this game further than I did.